Hey, what's up guys? Joker here, and I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review of The Batman, which was released very recently. I saw it yesterday at 1:30 in the afternoon in the gorgeous Dolby Cinema, which is really the only reason I ever leave the house to go to movie theaters anymore, is if I'm going to see something in the Dolby Cinema, since so much stuff comes to streaming now rather early on and stuff. And after seeing the initial reviews for this film and being a huge fan of Batman, obviously, I definitely had to go check this one out in the cinema. So today we're going to be talking about the film, some comparisons that I saw to like other styles of films and movies, specifically the actors' performances, cinematography, and like I said, spoiler-free, so no worries about that. And let's get into it. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you can save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro for just $19.50, and then you can unlock the prestigious dark mode on Windows 10 and take advantage of that. I couldn't live without it. And if you shoot over there right now, you could save 25% off. Hit the buy now button and then put in my code JP25 at checkout. I'll walk you guys through the process right now so you can see how much money we're saving and how to go ahead and install this on your Windows 10 PC. That brings our price down to $14.62, total savings of almost $5 using that JP25 code, which will work for any software products over there. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on Submit Order and select your payment mode of choice, which me personally is PayPal, and then I'll go ahead and complete the checkout by clicking on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on change your product key or unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click next, and you are all done and set. For more information on SuperCDK.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. So the first thing I want to say about the Batman movie that's called The Batman, simply just The Batman, is it is an apt title, because as far as Batman films go, I think this was the most Batman movie that I've ever seen. And what do I mean by that? Well, I kind of mean two things. Number one is that Batman himself gets a lot of on-screen time. This movie is about Batman. It's not really about Bruce Wayne, which I thought the Nolan films, which I love. I still love the Nolan films tremendously, and there are definitely parts of those movies that I love more than certain parts of the new Batman movie from director Matt Reeves. I love them both, but for completely different reasons. And the one thing about the Nolan films that I'd say that did sort of drag on for me at times was the focus on Bruce Wayne. And seeing the character of Bruce Wayne and all that stuff, I thought there was a lot of emphasis on that, which was important for the narrative of those films, don't get me wrong. But I loved how they focused on the Batman in this movie. And the other reason I say that it is really the most Batman movie ever made is because it also focuses on the detective nature of the Batman character, which I don't feel like any of the previous Batman movies have really focused on. There's been elements here or there, but at its roots, Batman is sort of like a detective. And the Arkham games, if you ever played those, obviously, there is a heavy focus on the detective side of Batman and those, analyzing clues and things along those lines. And this movie 100% presents itself like that. Like, where Batman, it is a Batman film, yes, but he's also a detective, and it can draw a lot of comparisons to like noir detective films and detective novels, and movies like Seven from David Fincher, which I was thinking about earlier, how there's, a lot of similarities in terms of like, yeah, it's like a sort of like a murder mystery, and you're trying to figure out who this killer is, and it's dark, it's gritty. But then I was thinking about it even more, and I don't want to get into specifics of it, but there are so many comparisons that you could draw from like the movie Seven to the Batman, and just the overall presentation and stuff like that. But I don't want to get too far into that because I don't want to go anywhere near any sort of spoilers. But I love the fact that it's like a murder mystery because I love those as well, and also the fact that it focused on Batman and his sort of detective type of role and working along with Jim Gordon and sort of the Gotham Police Department to, figure out who this Riddler character is. So in talking about the Batman, I guess I also do want to talk a bit about Robert Pattinson as the Batman. And I thought he was actually an exceptional Batman. I thought he did a great job in the suit and in the action scenes. Lots of great fighting, and I enjoyed his acting throughout the movie as the Batman. However, I did not enjoy him as Bruce Wayne. And you may say, well, how is that possible? He is Batman as Bruce Wayne is Batman. Yes, but I just didn't enjoy his portrayal of Bruce Wayne because it just kind of comes across as this little whiny emo bitch. So that's just... But like I said at the start, I really appreciated the fact that this movie was mostly about the Batman. There's very little time spent with Bruce Wayne as a character. I mean, yes, he's in there. It bounces back and forth a little bit, but I would say like 85% of the time that you're seeing Robert Pattinson on screen, or maybe even 90% of the time that Pattinson is on screen, he's as the Batman and not as Bruce Wayne. So I appreciated that for two reasons. One, I want to see the Batman focusing on Batman, and number two is because I didn't really enjoy Pattinson's portrayal as Bruce Wayne, but I thought he was an excellent Batman. Definitely probably top 3. Also, can't talk about this movie without talking about the villains. If there's anything I like about the Batman series, it's that I enjoy the villains, which should be obvious. I enjoy the villains in the Batman series more than any other comic or comic-to-movie genre. I think maybe Marvel has better heroes, but I always have thought DC does villains a hell of a lot better. And, getting to see Penguin and Riddler in this movie was awesome. I thought Colin Farrell was fantastic in this movie, like with the suit and the makeup and stuff like that, the way they did him. I mean, you can barely tell that there was a Colin Farrell in there. You can kind of get a glimmer of it in his eyes at times and maybe just a little bit of the inflections in the voice. But for the most part, if you didn't tell someone that was Colin Farrell, they'd be like, who the fuck was that? Who was that guy playing the Penguin? And he did a great job as the Penguin. I enjoyed the character, and I really enjoyed Colin Farrell's portrayal and sort of take on it, making him sort of this like mafia rough type rather than sort of like a waddling, quacking Danny DeVito type, which was good in its own right. But I just enjoyed the portrayal in this, I would say more even so than the Tim Burton Penguin played by Danny DeVito back in the early 90s in Batman Returns. And Colin Farrell also just, I don't know if anyone else perceives him this way, but I think he doesn't get enough credit for his acting ability. I think a lot of people don't really think about him that much, but I think he's an incredible actor, and there's been a lot of movies that I've enjoyed seeing him in. I'm going to give you a couple of recommendations of ones that maybe have passed you by. Number 1, probably my favorite Colin Farrell film, and one of my top 10 films of all time, In Bruges, directed by Martin McDonagh, stars him and Brendan Gleeson. This came out back in 2008, and I highly recommend you seek it out and watch it if you have not yet. It's a dark comedy, a very dark, but also very funny comedy film, but with serious tones to it. Basically, it's about 2 hitmen who are laying low in Bruges, in the country of Belgium, after a botched job that they had to do, and basically waiting to hear back from their boss, who is played by Ralph Fiennes, who is also an amazing actor in his own right, played Voldemort in the Harry Potter series. Also, his incredible role, his favorite role of mine was as Amanget in Schindler's List. He just plays that role to perfection, and he's great in this movie as well. So is Colin Farrell, so is Brendan Gleeson. Pretty much everyone in Bruges is awesome. Fantastic movie. If you've not seen it or heard of it, I wouldn't be surprised. And I would definitely seek it out. I believe it's available on Peacock right now. Also, another Colin Farrell film I'll recommend, Intermission. This was one very early on in his career, 2003. It's an Irish movie. I guess you can draw some comparisons to the like of Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, where it's a lot of different sort of storylines. Again, this is sort of like a dark comedy, a lot of intersecting sort of storylines, a little bit of crime, a little bit of drama, a little bit of romance, a little bit of everything kind of all coming together. Very Irish, but a very enjoyable film overall. So definitely recommend you checking out those Colin Farrell movies if you've not checked those out. The other villain in the movie we have to talk about would be Paul Dano as the Riddler, which I don't want to talk too much about the character of the Riddler, but I enjoyed Paul Dano as the Riddler. I wouldn't say I enjoyed this portrayal of the Riddler as much as, maybe I would have liked to. I didn't really enjoy Jim Carrey as the Riddler either, but I would say he was kind of true to like the old 1960s, like Adam West TV series where it was very over the top and comical. This is a much more realistic approach. I guess overall, this Batman movie is a much more realistic portrayal of things, and you can draw some comparisons to real life events and stuff that's going on in this film. So it seems sort of very believable and grounded in a lot of things that are happening in society today, but I definitely wouldn't say that it gets to a point where it's like political and you're gonna like, people are gonna like hate this. It was like, oh my god, it went woke or it went too far to the right or the left or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but it draws from some things in society today where you could see that in there and, kind of identify with it and say that, what, seeing what's happening here doesn't seem like that far of a stretch. And Paul Dano does a great job as the Riddler character, who, Paul Dano, also really great actor. I never really enjoy the characters that he plays, but mostly because he plays them so well. He always seems to always play characters that I love to hate, sort of like the Riddler here, and also his role in the movie There Will Be Blood, who he starred in opposite Daniel Day-Lewis, which is one of my favorite films of all time. Recently rewatched that. Another one, if you haven't seen There Will Be Blood, I'll bring it up on the screen right here. I meant to have all this stuff up and prepared, but I forgot to do that. But for everything. But yeah, There Will Be Blood. This is on Netflix right now. Actually, as I said, I just recently rewatched this. This is probably top 5 films of all time for me with There Will Be Blood. This came out in 2007, directed and written by Paul Thomas Anderson, who does a lot of great work. And Daniel Day-Lewis barely ever acts, and I'm pretty sure he's retired now, which is kind of sad because his movies are always top-notch. Played Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York. What else? I'm drawing blanks here trying to think about what else Daniel Day-Lewis has been in, but he's always been great. Last of the Mohicans, he played Lincoln in Lincoln. Phantom Thread, which was also directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. So yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, also like one of my favorite actors of all time, and it's sad that he doesn't do as many movies as I would have liked him to do, but he really does get into these roles. Couldn't imagine, oh my god, like if he ever played a Batman villain, I could only dream of him playing something like the Joker, like a challenging role like that, and the way he throws himself into roles, which is why he only ever did a movie like once every 5 fucking years. Daniel Day-Lewis as the Joker would have to top Heath Ledger, and he, in my opinion, is the best Joker, although Joaquin Phoenix is very, very close second. Honestly, tied in a lot of ways, but as far as encapsulating the Joker character for me, I thought Heath Ledger was the best. Besides, also Mark Hamill, obviously. Animated, but as far as live action is concerned, Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix are so close. It's like that close, honestly. But Daniel Day-Lewis, if he ever played the Joker, would be fucking awesome. The last things I'll bring up before getting out of here, one more thing to praise and one more thing I just wanted to talk about because I've seen it was like a criticism from a lot of people. But the one thing I wanted to mention that I thought was great in this movie was the cinematography. Seeing this in the Dolby Cinema where they have that like ultra wide presentation and stuff, it was like like almost like it's like 1:35 to 1 aspect ratio, I think. Kind of like watching on like like an ultra wide monitor, more or less. If you had this movie on ultra wide monitor, it would conceivably fill up the entire screen. So seeing that in the Dolby Cinema on the wide screen like that with all of the sound effects and everything was great, and I really got to appreciate the cinematography because of that. Like the cinematography in the Nolan films was also great, but I would say it was even better here. In a lot of cases, there were just so many different shots that were framed so well, where even though it was like during some action sequences and stuff like that, like the way that the cinematography was done to sort of focus you in on the right part of the screen and then the lighting and everything, and how it sort of played with the lighting and the sound effects and everything all kind of happening at once. There was just moments where I just sat back in my chair and I was just like, wow, they really went all in on this. And I don't know who did the cinematography for it, but it was just really, really good. And last thing, my allergies acted up. I'm not crying about the Batman movie. My eyes are tearing up, though, but not about the Batman. Just probably from staring at the screen and the camera lens for so long. But last thing I'll talk about before I get out of here is the runtime, which I didn't have an issue with. Well, I was shocked when I did book the tickets and I saw it was 2 hours and 56 minutes long. I was like, holy shit, that's a long fucking movie, Jack. But then again, I thought back to things like Zack Snyder's Justice League that they, finally did. And I have to think that maybe that, maybe that gave them a little leeway as far as, letting them greenlight this movie to, push it out at the length that it was at. And it felt a little long, but only really because I was sitting in a theater chair and I couldn't get up and go to the bathroom and pause and do things like that. So I feel like anyone that was criticizing the runtime of this movie probably wouldn't have done so if they were watching it at home. But it was a long time to sit in a chair for 3 hours staring straight ahead at the screen, no intermission or anything like that. So I can understand why people might complain about the runtime, but those are the same people that probably loved Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I also really enjoyed. I didn't like the initial cut of the Justice League. I thought it was terrible. And the Zack Snyder one, which I think was approaching 4 hours long, didn't have an issue with it because of the way that it was presented and the fact that I could watch it in the comfort of my own home. I could pause, get up to grab a drink, go to the bathroom. I didn't have to pay any extra money to watch the movie because I already had HBO Max. So I feel like if this came out straight to streaming and it was 2 hours, 56 minutes long or even longer than that, or was presented as like a 3-hour miniseries or something, I don't think anyone would have complained about the length of the movie. They probably would have been begging for more, honestly. So I did not really have an issue with the runtime because I know in the future, whenever I watch it again, it's going to be from home. So getting to see it in the cinema, though, was a treat in the Dolby Cinema and all that. So didn't really have an issue with the runtime. It honestly breezed by. I typically, when I see a movie, if I'm bored or something like that, I'm checking the time on my phone constantly. Like, how much more does this have left? All right, the trailers were about 25 minutes long. Got to account for credits. We probably get out of here another hour. Not so with this movie. I think I looked at my phone like maybe one time because I was curious and it was like about the halfway point at that time. So the runtime honestly was not an issue for me. I was left wanting more at the end, and I could have done with a lot more of this movie, and I cannot wait to see them do more with this. I did hear that they're doing 2 more direct sequels to this film, as well as 2 spin-offs. One that's going to be about the Gotham PD, which I'll check it out. Don't know how good that one's going to be, but I will definitely check out the other spin-off, which is going to be, from what I heard, I believe it's an origin story about the Oswald Cobblepot character, the Penguin, played by Colin Farrell. He'll be reprising his role as Oswald Cobblepot in the series for HBO Max. And that I'm definitely looking forward to because he did a fantastic job in this movie as Oz, or the Penguin, as we could just refer to him as. So that's all I've got for you guys on the Batman. Final review score, I'll say for this movie, just 10 out of 10. Before this movie came out, before any reviews were out, I had somewhat, I don't want to say low expectations, but I was just hesitant. I was just like, man, I really hope it's good. I love myself a good Batman film. But at the end of the day, if it was bad, I probably would have just skipped it or something, like a Batman vs. Superman. That was not good, honestly. Didn't really like the Batfleck stuff. Apart from Zack Snyder's cut on the Justice League, I thought that was good. But the other stuff that they've done so far in like the DC cinematic universe, most of it I've found to be not that amazing. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. And like I said, I had fairly hesitant expectations, hoping it would be good. And then when I saw the initial reviews coming in, where it was getting like 10 out of 10s from everywhere, I was just like, okay, maybe there's something to this movie. And I still avoided the reviews. I didn't really want to read any of them. So when I sat down in the cinema and I'm watching this dark, gritty movie that is like Seven from David Fincher, murder mystery, and I'm like, holy shit, this is actually a fucking Batman movie and not just a fucking cartoon made into a Batman character. This is an actual dark detective Batman movie, which is what I've always wanted. So in that sense, 10 out of 10, no doubt about it. You should go and see it. If you can go see it in the cinemas, I would recommend to do so, although it was expensive. I went with my stepson. Our tickets were $16 and change a piece, and we both got popcorns and drinks, and that was like another $35. So I think all in all, we were in it for around $75 total for 2 tickets, 2 popcorns, and two drinks. He got a soda. I got a big Dasani water, which was terrible because it was Dasani, and Dasani tastes like toilet water, which a dog wouldn't even drink. So that's all I've got for you guys about the Batman. From the Joker, signing out, and I will catch you guys next time. Ta-ra.